Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of Financial Fridays. Coming back to you with more great questions that you guys have texted in. And you know what? I think this is a really actually great question, very relevant to what's happening during this COVID-19 CARES Act and how that it affected a lot of the student loans. So we got a lot of students kind of been asking us this question. So I think this is a really appropriate time. The question goes like this, Shiva, and it goes, does the CARES Act student loan postponement impact my credit scores?
Very good one.
Yeah.
Who is that from?
This is from one of our friends. Her name is Brooke Johnson.
Okay, cool. Brooke, great question. Very important. Let's dive in. So, as far as the CARES Act, what it says is that your student loan payments, you're not required on most federal student loans to make payments between March, I think it was March 16th when they passed the act, through the 30th of September. And for credit scoring purposes, you're supposed to be marked as having paid on time. So there's supposed to be no difference in how you're marked. Now, if you're already behind on your payments or late on your payments, then you're going to continue to be marked late, okay? But if you were on time or in deferment or forbearance or whatever, otherwise, you're supposed to just be marked as in the same status. So you're paying on time, you should be marked as on time. But as always, there's some kind of little twist to it, right? And here's what happens. Some of you may have Great Lakes, okay? Great Lakes, the student loan servicer. Basically what happened is Great Lakes seems to have coded this as a forbearance, okay? Forbearance is basically where you're holding off on making payments for a period of time, but the interest is still building up on the account. Okay, so a lot of people, I've been in forbearance before, maybe you have as well, right, Brooke? So in a situation where you're in forbearance, it's not as good as being on time. And what happened was Great Lakes messed up and they went and marked people as in forbearance. Now, for your FICO score, forbearance doesn't per se have an impact, but the Vantage credit score, which you get on Credit Karma and Credit Sesame and Mint and some of these other apps, they treat forbearances very negatively. So a lot of people are marked as in forbearance from Great Lakes. I think specifically on the Equifax reports especially, Great Lakes was putting them as in forbearance, and their scores on Credit Karma dipped. And there actually is a class action lawsuit now as a result of this because people got worried and one guy was planning to buy a house, he didn't do so because he saw a score drop. And so people suffered real damages, right? And so that was a mistake by Great Lakes and by Equifax listing the loan as being in forbearance. But in most cases with Navient and Nelnet and some of the other companies, from what we've been hearing, it's being marked correctly, which is they're not doing anything different to your status, even though you don't have to make payments until September 30th. So for most people, there should not be any impact on your FICO score. If you notice the loan has been marked as in deferment, and it was not in deferment before, or it was not in forbearance before, you should contact a student loan servicer and ask them to correct it. If that doesn't work, file a dispute with the credit bureaus, and then feel free to contact us because you may have a lawsuit on your hands at that point, okay? So, free money for everyone. For most of you, not the case.
Right. Yeah. Well said, Shiv. And we have more questions coming in.
Let's take a look. Yeah. Okay, this one is from Rico. All right, Rico, you're curious about Wells Fargo. Does Wells Fargo check my credit before opening a bank account for me?
For opening specifically a bank account, not one of their charge accounts, not a credit card.
He says bank account. Rico wants to know about the bank account.
So he's looking to specifically open just a bank account. All right, Rico, I might be able to tackle this question for you from personal experience. Now, when Wells Fargo or any major banking lending institution wants to open an account for you. They don't necessarily check your credit scores. That's not what they really focus on, right? They're not necessarily looking to finance you, especially when you're saying, guys, I got $100, I want to open a bank account. It's almost like a secure credit card for them, okay? As far as their risk assessment. However, before they open that bank account for you, they do check your credit with TUCSS system. That's another form of data collector, just like the Experian and the Equifax and the TransUnion, where they keep track of all banks, all credit unions, all lending institutions, and those who've had a previous account that necessarily was charged off or was closed for whatever reasons, usually not good reasons. So it's very common that someone will open a bank account that, let's say they'll leave a small balance in it. Then what happens is they'll accrue some sort of a monthly fee that will get deducted from the balance in that particular bank account. Eventually the account gets overdrawn and eventually the account gets closed, charged off and closed. At that juncture, what happens is that the bank will report that account to TUCSS system, letting know other banks that this person, hey, owes us money, okay? Because there's been a lot of people who kind of misuse the capacity to open a bank account anytime they want. So they'll open a bank account, they'll put a small little balance, then they'll overdraft, a couple of $100 and just leave it be. So the banks have experienced a loss, and because of that, they created TUCSS system. So to answer your question, very simply, they don't check personal credit scores, but they do check your banking credit, if that makes any sense here.
Yeah, exactly. TUCSS systems, what Tony just said. That's a great way of thinking of it.
Right.
Banking credit, okay, just the way that, late payments and all that stuff on Equifax or Experian tells a credit card company or a mortgage lender about you. Overdrafting a bank account tells a bank about you. Because the reality is there's a lot of people with poor credit and bank accounts, okay? But when you've specifically shown that you have problems with banks in the past, they're going to be concerned. Same way that landlords might take people with bad credit, but if you've shown you had problems with previous apartments, they're going to hesitate. Yeah. It's the same thing. Yeah. Now, if you want to check your own TUCSS systems report, you can just go on Google and say TUCSS systems. By law, they have to give you a free report once per year, so they've got something on the website where you can request it. In most cases, it's not going to be a big issue because if you overdrafted a bank account, usually they'll let you know. But if you think you might have had issues in the past, go ahead and check on your TUCSS systems. Yes. And check to make sure that nothing is wrong.
Yes, yeah, and it's very easy to check. I mean, I'll share a personal story. Well over a decade ago, I had a small business account that I even forgot about. I forgot to close it out, and eventually the monthly fees accumulated, and eventually the account went into negative, and it was charged off, and it was reported to TUCSS system. I did not know that until I came to open up a new banking checking account, and that's when they told me so. And the cool thing is that they gave me a number for TUCSS system. I called them and I paid the balance that I was owed. I actually negotiated a significant portion off, and I was cleared of that, and I was able to open regular bank account. So you can do the exact same thing. So don't worry about it too much. If you need some more help with how to kind of overcome TUCSS system, reach out to us, and we'll be able to help.
And the last thing that I'll add, which is a minor point, I know that for some people you've got financial trouble, you're having a hard time, maybe you can't settle that account. There's good news and bad news. There are banks that work with people who had previous overdrafted accounts. The thing is, usually there's some kind of fee, annual fee, monthly fee, whatever. If you really need an account and that's the case, you cannot settle, say it was a big overdraft, you can open an account with this bank for a while, but we would recommend when your finances get back in order that you pay off the overdrawn account so that you can go to a normal bank, which gives you free checking and all those other great things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And with that being said, that concludes our Financial Fridays episode. Thank you for tuning in, and keep your questions coming, and we will see you on our next episode.
Enjoy the weekend. See you soon.
Cheers.